You may know the word sensei, a Japanese word for a teacher. But there's another word for teacher, one you may not know, a word you cannot use for the teacher in front of you today. It only works looking backward for the teacher who you now realize shaped who you became. That word is ongaeshi, and inside it sits one small word that may change how you see your own life. On. Now this little word on is usually translated as gratitude, but it is not quite gratitude. It is something a little different, and the difference is where it gets interesting. Because once you have this word, something can happen. You may begin to see a kind of thread running through your own life, a quiet thread connecting you to the people who you lifted you up. You may find it interesting how Japanese people see this kind of connecting thread. Konnichiwa. Hello, I'm Asuka. Today I want to talk about on, a Japanese kind of gratitude that was described 800 years ago as higher than the mountains, deeper than the sea. In Japan, there is a song we sing at graduation ceremonies. It is called Aogeba Totoshi. Generations of students have sung it while saying goodbye to their schools, and the very first line goes, Aogeba Totoshi Wagashi no on. It means, when I look up to my teacher, how noble, the on I received from my teacher. So this word on sits in the first line of one of the most beloved songs in Japanese school life. It has been treasured in Japanese society for a very, very long time. And yet, it is not an easy word to explain, even for us. So in this video, I would like to unpack this key word of Japanese thinking, what on means, how it works between people, and why we speak of it so carefully. By the end, I hope your own past looks a little different to you, in a good way. If this kind of exploration resonates with you, please subscribe to my channel. 1. What is on? Let's start where every learner starts, the dictionary. If you look up on in the Japanese English dictionary, you will not find one answer. You will find a small crowd of them. A favor, a kindness, a debt of gratitude, an obligation, a blessing. Each of these words overlaps with on a little. Each one touches a part of it, but none of them matches it exactly. Picture it like this. Imagine a circle in the middle, and the circle is called on. Around it stand the English words favor, kindness, debt of gratitude, obligation, blessing, and each one leans in and covers a piece of the edge. A favor covers the part about receiving help. Obligation covers the part around owing something. Blessing covers the warmth. But the center of the circle stays uncovered. So here's what I will do for the rest of this video. I will not translate this word. I will simply call it on. And by the end, I think the center of that circle will be clear to you, not as a translation, but as a feeling. So, what is in the center? Let me give you the shape of it. On is typically, not always, but typically, something you receive from someone above you. A parent, a teacher, a mentor, someone who was there before you, someone who already had what you did not yet have, knowledge, experience, skill, a place in the world, and who used it to raise you up. Now I want to be careful with the words above you. When you hear above, you may sense a hint of power or control. But in this kind of relationship, that is not what is happening. Think of a parent and a child, a teacher and a student. The one above is simply the one who came first and who used what they had to raise the other. They teach, they protect, and the one who was raised looks up to them. And later answers with gratitude. On is what remains in your heart when you were raised like that. There's a Japanese proverb that captures this perfectly. 子をもって知る親の恩. You only truly understand your parents' on when you have a child of your own. Think about that for a moment. While you were being raised, you could not see it. You were inside it. The meals, the patience, the worry. It was just your ordinary life. Then, years later, you find yourself on the giving side. You hold your own child, or you teach your own student, and you look back and you finally see how much your parents or the people who raised you, guided you, and cared for you all those years. That is how on works. It is a gratitude you discover later when you look back. Let me show you how deep this word can go. I want to take you back 800 years. In the 12th century, the samurai, Japanese warrior class, were skilled fighters, but socially they were looked down upon. They served the elegant court nobles in Kyoto, and they ranked below them. Then one man changed everything. Minamoto no Yoritomo. He built Japan's first samurai government in the town of Kamakura. He guaranteed the samurai their lands. He gave them titles, positions, standing. In other words, he lifted the samurai up as a whole class of people. Then Yoritomo died, and in the year 1221, the imperial court in Kyoto decided to crush this young samurai government. For the samurai, this was terrifying. Fighting against the court itself was almost unthinkable. The samurai government could have collapsed right there. At that moment, Yoritomo's widow stood up, Hojo Masako. She gathered the samurai, and her words were delivered to them. Words recorded in the official chronicle of the samurai government, the Azuma Kagami. Her message, in essence, was this. Think of what Lord Yoritomo gave you. Your ranks, your lands, your place in this world. His on is already higher than the mountains, deeper than the sea. Could your will to repay it possibly be shallow? The chronicle tells us the samurai were in tears. They decided to repay that on, even if it cost them their lives. They united, they fought, and they won. The samurai government survived, and the samurai would go on to govern Japan for more than 6 centuries. Now, let me be honest here. These bonds between lord and samurai had a practical side too. Land, duty, protection. Historians will tell you that, and they are right. But what Masako reached for it that moment, and what Japan has remembered for 800 years, was not the contract. It was a part that comes from inside. The samurai did not fight because of a contract. They fought because they felt on. So here is the first thing to hold on to. On is not a simple arigato, a thank you. A thank you ends the moment you say it. On begins there and stays. It carries two quiet feelings inside it. I must not forget this, and someday I want to repay it. It is gratitude on the scale of a life. 2. How do you repay on? But this raises a natural question, maybe an uncomfortable one. If on comes from someone above you, someone who raised you, does that mean you stay below them forever? Always bowing, always protected, forever the student? Here's the beautiful part. The answer is no. In fact, it is the opposite. Let me show you with sumo. In the sumo world, a young wrestler is trained by his seniors. Day after day, year after year, they push him, throw him, and build him. He owes them on. So, how can this young wrestler repay his seniors on? In sumo, the answer is this: by defeating that very senior in a real tournament in front of everyone. Not by serving him forever, not by politely losing to him out of respect, by beating him, because the day the young wrestler wins, he proves that the training worked. He shows his senior, what you gave me made me strong. In sumo, that is the repayment of on. And you may have seen this same structure recently. At the World Cup in 2026, Japan's soccer team was in the news. And not only for the matches. You may have heard about the fans cleaning the stadium. But something quieter happened in the press room. After Japan's first match, a 2-2 draw against the Netherlands, the press conference was coming to an end. And then Japan's head coach, Moriyasu Hajime, asked for the microphone himself. Nobody had called on him. He simply had something he needed to say. He turned to the Dutch reporters in the room and he thanked the people of the Netherlands. He explained why. When he became a national player, Japan did not even have a professional league. He was trained by a Dutch coach, Hans Oft, and through coaches like him, a whole generation of Japanese coaches was shaped. He also spoke of another Dutch coach, Wim Jansen, who had guided his club and who had since passed away. Moriyasu had learned where Jansen now rests, back in the Netherlands, and he had gone there himself to visit and give him thanks. And a few days later, before Japan faced Brazil, he was asked about Zico, the Brazilian legend, the famous number 10, who came to play in Japan for years and later managed our national team. Moriyasu said he hoped to reach out to him before the match. Now notice who all this gratitude was for. The Netherlands, Brazil, the very countries Japan was about to face on the pitch. For a long time, Japanese soccer was weak. It was raised by Dutch coaches, by Brazilian players, by people who came from far away and gave what they had. And Japan has grown enough to stand on the World Cup pitch and face them. That is what Moriyasu wanted to tell them. We are here because of you. And even when one of these teachers has passed away, he visits the grave to say thank you. This is on. Just like the young wrestler stepping into the ring to face his senior. So here's the principle underneath both stories. On is not a leash. It is not a debt designed to keep you small, quiet, and forever below. It is the memory of the hand that lifted you. Now, how do you repay such a thing? Part of the answer is simple and human. You say thank you, you visit, you stay in touch, and you care for them as they grow older. Moriyasu, standing quietly at his teacher's grave, was doing exactly that. But Japanese has one more answer, the deepest one. The true repayment, the true ongaeshi, returning the on, is to grow up, to step out from under their protection and become what Japanese calls ichininmae, a full independent adult who can stand on their own, and to stand one day side by side with the person who raised you as an equal. A child becomes an adult, and that itself repays the parent. A student surpasses the teacher, and the teacher is glad. Japan faced the Netherlands as an equal and thanks them from that very position. On does not ask you to look down. It asks you to grow, to go up. And here is the quiet truth inside it. It is when you have grown and you finally stand as an equal that you feel most deeply the on of the people who helped you get there. 3. Who may speak of on? So, on is precious. It can move samurai. It can cross oceans and even cross the line between life and death. But precisely because it is so precious, there is one more rule about it, a delicate one. In Japanese, there are positions from which you may speak of on and positions from which you may not. Remember the word we started with, onshi. Here's something interesting about it. Only the student can use it. I can say she was my onshi, but no teacher can stand up and announce, I am your onshi. It would sound strange and honestly a little ugly. The same goes for onjin, a person who gave you great on. Only the person who received can call someone onjin. So the vocabulary of on points in one direction only. Let me show you the 3 positions around a single act of kindness. First, the receiver, the one who was lifted. This person may speak. They carry the on. They remember it. They tell the story. I am here because of that person. In Japanese eyes, speaking this way is a virtue. Second, the giver. For the giver, silence is a virtue. The moment a giver starts pointing at that own kindness, remember everything I did for you. Japanese has a sharp expression for it. On wo uru, to sell on. The moment you treat your kindness as something to trade, it stops being on at all, and it's ugly. And third, the people around. They say little, but they see everything. They see the giver, who raised someone with so much care and never says a word about it. They see the receiver, who knows they did not grow up alone and quietly carries their own. And the people around appreciate both of them without saying much. But for the one who forgets their on, who erases from their stories the people who made them and acts as if they grew up entirely on their own, the people around have a word as well. On shirazu. One does not know on. It's not nice behavior. There is even a pair of everyday expressions that paints this whole picture with clothing. To feel deep gratitude is on ni kiru, literally to wear the on. Imagine someone being handed a warm coat and putting it on themselves, gladly, with both hands. That is a beautiful image. But there is a second expression, on ni kiseru, to dress someone in the on. Now imagine the same coat being forced over someone's head by the giver. Same coat, same image of clothing, but the meaning is opposite. Gratitude that you put on by yourself is beautiful. Gratitude that is forced onto you by the giver is not. And now the full picture comes together. On is the receiver's word. It lives in the heart of the one who was lifted, and it becomes visible when they look back. The receiver may speak of it, carry it, wear it. The giver gives, and then lets go. And the people around watch quietly and appreciate. So around one act of kindness, each position has its own proper way. The receiver speaks of on with gratitude. The giver stays silent. The people around watch warmly. This really is how Japanese relationships work. It matters who is speaking and from where. And this one small word, on, carries that entire word inside it. So now you have the word, on. And I wonder if something is already happening as you listen, because none of us became who we are alone. Somewhere in your past, there was a teacher, a mentor, your parents, your grandparents, a first boss, someone who has something you did not yet have, and who used it to raise you. Now that you can name it, you may begin to see it, the quiet threads of on running through your own life. So tonight, perhaps, look back for a moment, find one face, and quietly in your heart, thank them. That is all on asks. If today's exploration resonates with you, and you'd like to go further, not just memorizing Japanese words, but learning the way of seeing behind them, I have a free video seminar for you. It is made for adults who want to learn Japanese in a way that truly fits a busy life. You can find the link in the description below. Today's word was on. On is the gratitude you discover when you look back, and you repay it by growing until one day you stand beside them as an equal. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. さようなら.